One of the hardest hit industries in New York City is restaurants, which employ 317,000 people, 60% of whom are immigrants. Restaurants are the cornerstone of tourism and social life in New York City, but are now devastated by COVID regulations.
My name's Ed McFarland. I've been open in SoHo for 13 and a half years. Opened in March 2007 in a hailstorm with a line down the street. Fast forward to 2020 and COVID and no line down the street, but we're working to get through it. I got my start in the restaurant industry 16 years old. I started as a busboy, kitchen stuff, front of house, whatever I could do, working in an Italian red sauce restaurant in Staten Island and in a pizzeria after that. After working in the pizzeria for 4 years, it was kind of like an epiphany. I woke up one morning and decided I was going to go to culinary school. It literally was just kind of like snap like that. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was working 2 or 3 jobs. I had dropped out of college and went to bed one night, woke up the next morning. I grabbed, I believe it was Gourmet magazine at the time, and we'll probably go back to, I want to say it was sometime in the mid-90s, like 1993 or 1994. Pulled the magazine, started flipping through it, and that was it. I was going to culinary school.
Restaurant ownership has been one of the city's longest-standing entrepreneurial pursuits and a defining characteristic of the city. Ed, the chef and owner of Ed's Lobster Bar in SoHo, is one of the thousands who have seen their culinary dreams tarnished by COVID regulations.
So we've been affected pretty greatly. You know, between cutting the staff, bringing the staff back, cutting them again. When the first original lockdown happened back in March, I was pretty much working here by myself in the front of house. I had my kitchen staff working, but very minimally. And I had one person who was coming in to kind of help out and, you know, minimize the shifts, but I was working 7 days a week. And I did that for about 59 days before I kind of snapped like a twig. And at that point, I realized that I had to take a step back, bring more people back, and figure out other ways to keep this going with having employees working. But, you know, from an economic standpoint, you know, digging into my pocket, I'm the sole owner of the restaurant, to keep the restaurant floating and keep my employees paid, keep customers coming to the restaurant, really became the focus. I mean, I'm right outside of Chinatown. I have a very big tourist customer base between Asian tourists and European tourists. And we were right around Valentine's Day and it was really busy. And then boom, the next week it was slow. And I started to do the research and I put 2 and 2 together and realized that where were my customers, they weren't traveling to the United States. My restaurant did very little takeout business. Probably 5% of the sales were takeout, and I needed to immediately transition to takeout. So I kind of got my assistant together. We sat down. We started going over all the possibilities, the takeout services, in-house takeout, and everything else. We formulated a plan, switched the restaurant over as fast as possible, and just, you know, we took the attitude of we needed to do whatever we could to get through what was going on, and we were going to have to learn as we were doing it. You know, Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio seem to be specifically targeting restaurants, and especially New York City. Mayor de Blasio, I believe, came out, and I can't give a direct quote because I don't know it, but sometime over the summer, he said that restaurants are upper and middle class activities and they don't benefit the lower class, which is an absolute ridiculous statement. Everybody goes out to eat, regardless of what type of restaurant it is. And everybody works in restaurants. So you're not affecting people dining, you're affecting people living and making money and supporting their families. So I don't quite understand what their target is on restaurants, but it's definitely targeted. And if you're taking 50% dining, and if you're a 100-seat restaurant, which we're clearly not here, but if you're a 100-seat restaurant and you can seat 50 people or you can seat 25 people, but I can go to Home Depot, which I've done, and been in the store with 150 people for an hour buying Christmas decorations. What's the harm of you being in my restaurant for 45 minutes or an hour and having drinks and dinner? And in fact, they did overturn the rule, but the state liquor authority originally said with the second shutdown of indoor dining that customers dining outside weren't going to be allowed to use your bathroom. So you're going to tell me customers couldn't wash their hands? It's ridiculous and absurd, but you can go into Costco and Trader Joe's and use their bathroom.
When Governor Cuomo announced the suspension of indoor dining, restaurants and small businesses were forced to adapt by moving operations outdoors, a costly endeavor for even the most successful establishments.
The outdoor setup was a pretty big investment, and so was the takeout, between bringing in all the product for takeout and delivery, the cost of dealing with services like Uber Eats, Caviar, DoorDash, and the cost of the building the outdoor structure, which was upwards of $15,000 when it was all said and done to build, just to kind of be told that now they may close it down. And really, in the winter, if it's 25 degrees in New York City and windy, nobody's going to sit outside and eat. It's just not going to happen. New Yorkers want to be comfortable. So unfortunately, outdoor dining really did not help us here. From doing almost no takeout, we built it up to 100 takeout orders a day. And when outdoor dining opened across the city, it actually dropped my sales because the amount of restaurants that opened up throughout the city, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, and Staten Island, now there was a lot more choices, and people chose to go back and start supporting what was in their local neighborhood as opposed to takeout or traveling to other locations to eat. There was no draw for the customers to come into New York City to eat and shop. I'm still a fan of New York City. I think that New York City is going to make it through. I just believe it's going to be a lot slower and longer recovery than everybody would like to think. If we don't have the borders open for tourism, if we don't have a safe New York City, and I don't mean the virus as far as safety, I'm talking about the crime rate that's gone up, the fact that the mayor doesn't support the police, that the governor wants to lock New York City down. It doesn't promote any activity to New York City. People don't feel safe to come here. The outlying areas, now SoHo in general, I still see as a safe area, but I see what the rest of the city is like at night. I hear about the crime that's going on. It's not getting reported in the main street media, and it's a shame.
No person could have foreseen the 2020 lockdowns, including Ed and his employees, who have fought tirelessly to stay open.
This has been on my arm for 10 years. This is the logo of the restaurant. The restaurant is my life. It's what supports my family. It's what I do. It's what I teach my children about how to succeed and always work hard. And it's not necessarily about working hard. It's about hard work, right? Which is a difference. You can work hard and get nowhere, but it's about how you use your time to get ahead. And I want them to see in what I do that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not going in 7 days a week or 6 days a week and putting in 12 hours a day when they saw me spend time with them last year in the summer and they didn't get that same attention this year. I want them to see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and your activities and your work leads to something greater and bigger in life. So I believe another total shutdown will overall destroy the restaurant industry in New York City, as well as most of the small businesses. What's going to happen is, if they shut this down, the places that reopen, they're not going to get the places that do fully close, it's going to be very difficult to get the money to reopen. And the fact of the matter is, I'm not looking for a handout. I don't believe that the federal government needs to come with a bailout package. What they need to do is open up, allow us to be open, allow us to be a free market, capitalistic society again, and allow customers to come in and dine. And it's your choice. If you are afraid to leave your house, stay home. If you want to come out and support businesses, come out and support businesses. But if you're going to close us down, then you need to pay our bills. I can't pay my bills if you tell me I can't operate at full capacity. My landlord can't get paid, and nobody's paying him for me to be in this space. So at the end of the day, a full shutdown is going to be it's going to be an even larger problem than what's going on right now. Let us be open. Don't think that Washington is giving us a bailout in New York City. It's not happening. There's just too many individual small restaurants. And if you're going to bail out just New York City alone in restaurants, I'm sure it's $1 billion bailout just for here. What about the rest of the country? What they're going to have to do is going to have to be done in some sort of fair and equitable way. And I don't see how anybody could work that out. Let us be open. That's what's going to fix the restaurant industry.